What's up and welcome to the Divine Hustle podcast. We are launching a brand new season number 1, and we're relaunching the brand and we are tackling the future of church. In this episode 1, we got some very tactical and practical tips for you. And we also have a discussion about what social media looks like for the church in today's world. So if you're a leader, a pastor, a creative, this podcast is for you. Stick all the way to the end because this is a great first episode to launch our brand new season of the future of church. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Divine Hustle. We help churches and brands build a responsive online culture that grows their community, builds influence, and creates impact. If you're a church leader or want to create impact through your brand, this is the podcast for you.
Welcome to Divine Hustle. If you've been listening to us for a while, Divine Hustle has been through many different stages, many different seasons, many different transitions. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for staying tuned all this time and listening to Divine Hustle and everything that we've kind of grown into and evolved into. And this is definitely a new season that we're in. Our team's growing, as you can see. And that's really exciting because we're actually doing cool stuff and it's fun for us, and I hope it's going to be fun for you as we learn how to nurture the church online and help you grow your church online and help you grow your reach, help you grow your community, and help you navigate really social media so that you can do all those things. So I'm just going to introduce myself. If you have not heard about Divine Hustle or this is your first time listening, my name is John Mediana, and man, this has been a dream of mine for many, many years to just do something that I'm really passionate about and creating a platform for that we could have these conversations. So I just want to introduce the team right now, and we'll go around the table. We'll start with my beautiful wife, and this is Britt.
Hello.
Tell us about yourself, Britt.
Who am I looking at?
Hello. Yes, I am Britt. I am John's wife.
Tell us something about yourself.
Something about myself.
Yeah.
I don't know of anything super fascinating.
Other than you're a mom.
I'm a mom.
New mom.
Yeah, we have a little baby boy.
I have the cutest baby in the world.
Cutest
So
baby in the
cute.
world.
Next
Not
to
said by
Angela's
me.
cutest
Looks
baby.
like
Someone else
Mickey
said
Mouse.
it.
I validate.
Looks like Mickey Mouse.
He does look like Mickey Mouse. He
100%.
smiles like Mickey Mouse. He's
Yeah.
super
Does.
cute. Yeah, that's the most fascinating thing in my life.
All right, Kelly.
Hola. My name is Kelly. Or maybe I should say g'day.
G'day.
G'day, mate. I am the resident Australian. One fun fact about me, at one point, I was studying to be a midwife. So have caught a few babies. Just decided that wasn't the thing for me.
Catching babies?
Yeah, catching babies. You know?
Baby catcher.
Yeah.
Title, baby catcher.
Baby catcher. Yeah, official.
Ex-baby catcher.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, that's me. Have spent my whole life in church. Grew up in a private school that was attached to a church. I talk different. I talk different. Maybe we should have subtitles for me.
Yeah, there you go. No one else has subtitles except for Kelly.
That would be funny. I would actually really enjoy that personally. Grew up in church and started in youth ministry, was on staff in
so
youth
fun.
ministry, worked for as a communications director at a large-ish church in Australia, and just rolling with the punches over here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here with us, doing this with us. We're so excited. And this is
Angelo Carlo. Fun fact about me that most of you don't know is that I am an incredible bow tyer.
what?
Oh.
Whoa.
It is like a weird talent of mine.
like a bow tie.
No, like a real
Like a
Christmas
bow.
present bow or wedding bow. Like I can make a bow look like a rose. Like that kind of
my
like
gosh.
crazy ridiculous bow tie.
What?
We should have a
It's a
bow off.
weird
Bow
talent.
off.
I would Fail.
Like a riff off, but a bow off.
A bow
Yeah,
off,
I'd
yeah,
fail
would
too.
win.
Yeah.
You totally win.
See, like, this is one of those talents you're embarrassed of,
Do a
but also very
tutorial.
proud of.
No.
It's
Do
kind of a weird.
tutorial and
Yes, there you go. Boom.
Go
We'll
crazy.
dedicate a
Christmas
whole
is
Affiliate
coming.
marketing somewhere in
We
there.
all
I know.
need to know.
There's millions to be made.
We all need to know how to tie bow. Christmas
Yes,
is coming.
exactly. Christmas is coming.
You
Absolutely.
can tie bows and I could do tie bow.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yes, we need a typo tutorial. That's what we really need.
Billy Blink.
That's what
typo.
we need in our life.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
This whole thing like tie bow, lol jokes. Today we're gonna learn.
So fun. Well, today's episode, our very first episode in this brand new season of The Future of Church, we are talking about the church's social dilemma. And I don't know if you guys in the audience listening to this has ever seen the Netflix movie documentary called The Social Dilemma, but me and my wife just did, and our whole team has really. And it's interesting because how this correlates to the church and what we do in Divine Hustle is social media.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like just really started off with a conversation of like, is social media really the devil? Like, is it
That's what
really?
it made you think.
It made you really think like,
Yeah.
oh, the social media dilemma is a dilemma. And they painted the picture really well using that family and telling that narrative of like, oh yeah, this is actually what happens in everyday life. And you know, statistics are true. Like the things that they were saying, there's so much truth in it.
Yeah, there
and there's
is.
also some misinformation as well. And I say misinformation because there's just information in there that if you did not know, you would just believe that the world is just chaos.
Yeah.
And you would just totally believe, you know, if you're in your home for such a long time and you're only listening to certain things or you're only on certain social media platforms, a lot of times these platforms control the narrative of our life.
Yeah.
And really, the more you dig deep into it, we call it the rabbit hole, right? You would think that the world's going to end and Jesus is coming so fast. But today, I hope that we could really debunk a lot of the stuff, but not debunk, I guess, add to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really expose.
Bring like a light to it.
Yes,
So it's not so dark and dingy.
Yes.
And
So what are your guys' initial
the
thoughts on watching The Social Dilemma? What did you get from it?
Yeah, well, I can
go.
Let's go, Kelly.
Yeah. Well, like for me, like having worked in marketing for, you know, quite a few years and, you know, I studied marketing and public relations. It wasn't, what they had to say wasn't necessarily a surprise because, you know, when you know, as someone who has to coordinate those campaigns that are
Right.
presented on social, you know very like firsthand that they are selling you. That's why you're buying.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
selling for that viewership because you want your information in front of, you know, that audience and you want that reach. So that wasn't necessarily shocking to me. I think what I found shocking was one of the, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but the guy who's like the founding father of virtual reality, like
Yeah.
So
my
great.
favorite dude in the whole thing. He said, like social, it's the gradual, slight, imperceptible change in your own behavior and perception that is the product. And I just kind of thought, you know, I'm that cusp generation of like in school, like we didn't have internet in our home.
Right.
I remember going to the library
Yeah.
to set up a Hotmail account.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a very
Hotmail.
big
That's
day.
a throwback.
Yeah, whoo.
Going back.
It's not AOL.com or anything like that,
No.
but you know.
Right.
And so yeah, for me, like you can even see, like I have a younger sister, she's 7 years younger, and so I can see the difference in the impact that it has on her life versus mine.
Yeah.
I totally unplugged from social, you know, at the beginning of COVID. It was just so much information. Whereas she, like, people from that generation struggle to, like, they have, you know, some withdrawals and they
Disconnect,
talk about that
Right.
addiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of got me thinking, like, wow, it really does shape and change our behavior slightly, but that slight adjustment over time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I guess later we'll talk about it, but for me it was like, okay, well, like what is our responsibility as the church then within that conversation and within
Yeah.
the content that is, you know, in front of people's eyes.
Yeah, that's great, Kelly. Britt, what do you think?
Well, like Kelly, like understand the algorithm, and I understand social media as a whole and its purpose and mission to like bring a message and go farther beyond your four walls at home. But the thing that got me was how it's the algorithm's job to actually predict your next move, and that they're creating or collecting so much data on you that you don't even know yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're unaware of things about yourself, and they know more about you, and how this is a system. And in their terms, they created it to work for itself, essentially. So in my head, I think of iRobot.
Yeah.
And, all the robots are lined up, and they're smarter than we are.
Right.
And then there's the one that, like, has human feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we all anticipate the AI to come
Take
back
over
at
the
us.
world.
Yeah. Like a robot.
Yeah, they made that Terminator reference in the
Yeah,
movie
they
too.
did. They did. They made all the
Big
references.
The Matrix reference, all kinds
Which
of
that was
references.
like the before, when I was like, oh my gosh, the world's gonna end and
Right.
social media is killing us. But like halfway through to the end, I'm like, oh, you know what? No, like how lucky we are to have so much information now
Yeah.
to where we can reverse it
Yeah.
and use it for the good, use it for positivity, use it for love, use it for connecting people to Christ and
Yeah.
spreading the gospel, which is what our job is as a
Yeah.
believer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
because like ultimately, we're not going to go up against the algorithm.
Right.
That's like Google's issue, in my
Right.
opinion.
Absolutely.
Y'all can talk about the regulations
We don't
that
have
are
time
needed
for
for
that.
that, but like
Yeah.
as the everyday person and as the believer, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Angela.
Yeah, to piggyback on both of you, I think that that there needs to be the biggest thing that was interesting to me was like, man, like it really exposes who you are at your core, because
Yeah.
it's made to show you what you want.
Yeah.
What's
Wow.
going to keep you on the app or keep you on that particular page as long as possible.
Yeah.
And that's frightening, but it's also, a really good opportunity. Because I think that if there's a yearning or there's something that someone needs in their life, they're more likely to gravitate to that in private
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a social media platform through their search or through their views or
Right.
whatever it is they're doing. And I think that there's a real opportunity here where we as the church can find people
Yeah.
that are hurting, that are looking for answers, that are looking for content that's going to make them
Yeah.
feel better, that's going to give them some truth, and we can be there to give them that truth. So I saw kind of both sides of the coin. At first watching that movie, you're like, whoa. Like,
Yeah, it takes you off guard.
Yeah.
They told,
yeah, it was intense, man.
they told the story really, really
They
well.
did.
Like,
They
they thought of
did.
every element.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. Yes, this can absolutely be used for wicked, and it has been used
Yeah.
for wicked.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
just like everything in life that's been used for wicked, the church finds a way to utilize it
For sure.
and to turn it around. I
That's
mean,
so good.
you look at when Romans started building roads that intertwine into their cities so that their military can go from city to city. That network was used by the church to get information out, to get messages out,
Yeah.
to combine, to really connect people.
Yeah.
And I think in that same manner, I think this is a tool that can do the same exact thing.
Yeah,
sure.
I kind of see definitely how Rome, when they built the roads, that is their access. That was their social media, because they got to places faster,
Right.
information got around faster, and they can actually use that as either combat or use it as a tool.
Yeah.
And what I learned from the movie was really interesting is the psychology, really, of what social media actually does, and it demands from humanity. And like I remember part of the film was like, you don't use a bicycle, right? The bicycle's not, it just sits there and it's not demanding anything from you until you use it.
Right.
So using social media and being very intentional to use social media as a tool instead of something that's just sucking the life out of you,
Yeah.
right? And I even caught myself and I was like, man, I wonder how long I could go off my phone during this movie. And it wasn't long until I was like, oh, I'm just going to check to see what, I'm just going to check. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, and I caught myself on like Instagram or Facebook while the movie's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, what is going on? Like,
I
why am I...
re-downloaded the app and felt like I was binging. I was
Yeah.
like, Kelly,
I'm
get
like,
off.
why
Like-
can't I stop? Even at, being intentional as I am and catching myself and all that stuff, I'm just like,
Right.
oh my gosh, there's something that's with social media that drives us to come back to it every single time. And the way he explained it was like pulling that lottery slot, like that
Yeah.
slot
Yeah,
machine.
that was a good analogy.
And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, it's like you don't know what you're gonna get, like what information's
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
other side. If you just
Yeah.
pull that little feed down and you see the ticker go off, or someone's texting you back and you see the bubbles go off.
Yeah.
Right.
It has programmed us that we're gonna receive something on the other side. We're gonna receive some information, and that's a scary thought, especially to a lot of pastors, a lot of worship
Yeah.
leaders, a lot of creatives. It's either a scary thought because they're in fear of like man, I don't want to be sucked into the machine because I have a mission and I have a mission to lead
it's
people.
Explained that social media is used to manipulate. And as a pastor or as someone in the church, you don't want to manipulate people.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the last
Absolutely
thing
not.
you want to
Yeah.
do.
Well, some don't.
Yeah.
A lot of them. They're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
The church word for it is influence.
There you go.
Yeah. Is the cat out of the bag? Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Sorry, my bad.
You know, I feel like just to piggyback what you're saying, like I think that what makes this different than any other form of entertainment or form of like information or any form of like communication with that we've had before is the fact that in no way has anything ever been built that knows what you want before you know what you want.
Yeah,
No,
wow.
very true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
true.
why you can't keep off of it.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Because there's nothing that delivers the
Yeah.
content you want in real time before you even know you want it.
On demand.
On demand, like Facebook or Instagram does.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so who wouldn't want that? As soon as you open it, you're seeing something you want to see.
Yeah.
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 It's more likely than not you're seeing something you
Yeah.
want to see.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you're a scroll away from finding what you
Finding
want to
something
see.
else. Yeah, for
You
sure.
get smarter and
Get there.
smarter and
For sure.
learn your patterns
Yep.
until you're hooked.
Absolutely.
And you can't help it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because obviously, you see in that documentary that, we're painting one picture of it. But, even one of the guys who was one of the early employees at Facebook said, I created the like button.
Yeah.
But the whole intention of it was to share
Positivity.
and community. Like Facebook and all of these platforms,
The
MySpace, was initially like built to help birth community. And
Yeah.
in a ways, we actually see that it's been very successful
Absolutely.
at doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
However,
It has.
because of the climate and the kinds of information that does get shared, like they said, like fake news gets 6 times the amount of traction
Yeah.
that like real
media.
news does.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you know,
wild.
you do like it is powerful because you see these groups of people who are finding those common interests
Yeah.
and it's just about harnessing that and redeeming that really.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Right.
you know, wherever the church disengages in conversation and disengages, that leaves it wide open for the enemy to like come in and have
Absolutely.
his rule and reign. But if we come back in, there is that power of redemption, and
Yeah.
we might look at it as, oh, it's social media, and but that's where community happens. That's where this, particularly those like Gen Zers or Gen Zers, as I would say, like, coming from, and that's their life.
Yeah.
They don't know life
Absolutely.
without it.
Absolutely.
And that's how they know how to communicate. So it's so vital
Yeah.
for us to understand and to redeem this part of society.
So I love how you brought that up. That goes into our next kind of part of this segment in this episode. Let's just talk about the church's elephant in the room.
Yes.
Social media.
Yeah.
The church's social dilemma. I mean, no one's immune to it, obviously,
Yeah.
and we've learned through these past 8-9 months. I mean, every single
We've
church,
seen such a shift.
every
Yeah.
single church is honestly either when they first started 8 months ago, they're either panicky or they
Yeah.
got it under control, or
Yeah.
they got or they thought they did, but quickly
Not enough.
realized from all the text messages that I've been getting the day after churches went live the first time in COVID.
Yeah.
They're like, SOS, help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do we do this? How do we do this? So let's just talk about that for a minute. What is the church's social dilemma? Can anyone explain or does anyone have an opinion about
I
that?
think it first starts with neglect. I think that it snuck up on them. They didn't
Yeah.
realize how much of a tool or how necessary it was going to be. And I think it's been something that has been on the back of people's minds, the back of pastors' minds was the thought, oh, maybe someday this would be something that we really, be the primary way people communicate.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic, it was like a huge slap in the face. Like, wow, this is happening right now. We're getting a
Yeah.
glimpse
Yeah.
of our possible future.
Yeah.
Like, do I even like this future?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do I push against it,
Right.
or do I just go along with it and try to make the best of it? And I think that's a real conundrum to be a part of.
Yeah.
To think of.
But you know what? Like when you think about it, I feel like the church always knew that that's where they needed to be and that's where they needed to go. They just took a longer time to get there. And when COVID hit, when the lockdowns happened, it became an exhilarator of, okay, like everything that we've thought, you know, where we're headed, it kind of happened faster than we'd like, you know. And for the churches, for the churches that weren't ready for it, oh my gosh, they learned really quickly. You know what I mean? And what can we do today to help churches understand and kind of like help guide the narrative and navigate them through this dilemma? A lot of them are looking at churches like Elevation, Transformation, you know, Joel Osteen's church, and seeing what they do with online and social media, and they're trying to replicate it themselves, but some of them are finding themselves in really hard like places of I just don't either have the team, the staff, the volunteers, maybe the creativity,
or a plan,
maybe a plan. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, why is it so important to have a plan for your church's social media?
Well, I think maybe like firstly to take it a step back, I think we just have a misunderstanding of its importance and how to use it correctly. Because I think, you know, we have that generational gap happening at the moment where the leadership of our churches and even youth ministries are where it's the leadership that's on that cusp of like, we kind of had social media, we kind of didn't, or we didn't have social media at all. So we don't understand it. It is actually like quite a complex beast. It's so intricate and there are so many different things you can do. And I think also just like a misunderstanding of its purpose, because we see like the Kim Kardashians and you know this, and we're a little bit
you're competing
scared
against attention.
You're literally competing with Kim Kardashian. Like, you know, whoever thought they'd be going up against Kim Kardashian like every day.
In churches, when they do have social media, they use it as their bulletin board. Like back in the day, a church used to have like an actual board in their lobby, and they would have all the events.
Prayer meeting coming up Friday night, worship nights coming up.
You
Don't forget to sign up for
printing, and then you had to fold it and like stack it.
I used to have paper blisters.
Holding on the margin. Bleeding right, and you have to do it all over again.
You have to feed the paper in, like we all.
And then, God forbid if there's a typo. God forbid if there's a typo.
There's a typo on you in like 2 seconds.
Karen.
And you've already
strongly worded
like
Sister
100
Karen.
copies.
Sister Karen is just so. She's gonna be on you.
You use the wrong
put it through the shredder.
No, it's so true though. Like I remember those days. But to go off of what you're saying, Kelly, is like you need. As a church, you need to understand its true purpose of social media. Otherwise, you will get stuck with just posting an event, and then you'll be an event-driven church. You're not going to be a gospel-driven church.
Absolutely.
You know, you're not going to nurture the people that you're trying to bring in.
And I think there's also a big misunderstanding, even with businesses. Like, you know, so like I used to work in show business, and you know. Everyone wants to just promote and put their message out there, but social media is a two-way communication point. Like
it has to be.
You know, when you know we were doing like public relations and all of that, where you know you stand up and you give a speech, you know put an internal company message out.
I think that's what the church is used to, though. They have a stage 100%. And they have they're used to like just a one-way conversation where people. Their attention is already built into the church kind of organization of the structure. It's like, okay, we go here, we're going to enter in the lobby, you're going to get welcomed, you're going to get seated, you're going to participate in worship, and then you're going to sit down and you're going to listen to the pastor talk for 25 to 45 minutes, some of them 3 hours, you know, which is crazy.
Well, and let's be real, like two-way conversation is scary.
It is.
Particularly in a church context, because you just don't
you have no idea.
Know what people are going to say. And you've got so many opinions in one room, and in, you know, at one table we have 4 different opinions here, you know,
4 different backgrounds, 4 different upbringings, 4 different views, 4 different lenses that they see the world. You know?
And so, you know, it's like a whole other thing when you're trying to, as a church, create a certain, you know, culture, and you really want to, you know, steward that culture well. Opening two-way conversation can be really confronting and a real, like, feel like a real risk. And so I think that's why we kind of stick with the bulletin board style, and even companies do that as well. Let's just stick with a bulletin board style of communication.
It's safe.
Because it's safer.
And we don't know what else to do.
Like, honestly. And that's where it comes down to, there's not a full understanding of the entirety of what social media can be for your church.
And, you know, maybe you've got 20-year-old, you know, I can't think of a name right now.
Kylie.
There you go.
Managing your social media.
Yeah.
And so, I wouldn't expect 20-year-old Kylie to know how to respond to 50-year-old Bill,
Right.
who might have
Well, this is a
something to
very
say,
interesting terrain because now we have 5 generations underneath one roof for the
Yeah.
very first time.
Yeah.
And those generations, they communicate very differently.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of these, from boomers to Gen Zers, right? They all communicate differently. They all use social media in such a different way.
Yeah, they're all on social, right?
Yet they're all hanging out, and like, it's so funny because I remember when my family members started joining Facebook and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to delete my Facebook. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
my grandma is watching what I'm doing.
Why is my aunt liking and commenting my post? I need to get off. I need to find a way out. Thank God, for Instagram. No, just kidding. Snapchat, TikTok.
I was at a friend's house recently. She's like a spiritual mum to me, and she was scrolling through her Instagram feed, and one of her nieces had a, scantily clad photo, and literally she read me all of the family comments. It's dad, mom. She chimes in with, "I'm praying for you. Put some clothes on." Like,
No, it's so true.
That's so true.
you're gonna be ready for that two-way conversation in your own life.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for real.
So let's just talk about how churches can use social media to nurture their congregation, the people that are tuning in online. I think one of those ways is just not worry about the design aspect, but like, getting on video and talking about maybe a Devo, maybe they do a live video. I know Facebook and Instagram are favoriting live. What if pastors or leaders can go on live and just have a conversation and see who's going to show up in the chat, and just have, whether it's like, there's a scripture I want to talk about, maybe there's prayer requests, maybe there's something, but a way to connect. That's one of those ways to do that, just to make it a two-way street instead of a one-way street.
I think more pastors need to see it as a tool to communicate. And if you see it within that spectrum, you realize that now you have an opportunity to disciple more people at the same time.
So,
and they're so accessible to you now to where you can start giving information or giving a word, every day that can minister to your whole entire, flock, right? And I think that's so dynamic. There's so many things you can do in regards to like having poll questions or having Q&As or things like that can give you a gauge for what your people are experiencing or going through. And utilize that as tools to create content that help and meet those needs,
Right.
Well,
absolutely.
it's an extension of your ministry. Like, you might be tackling, we all kind of work in sermon series during like Monday through Saturday. That's a great opportunity to just break that down in bite-sized pieces to, in communications, they tell you someone's got to see your message or hear your message or experience your message 3 times before it starts to really kind of sink in. And so social's a great way even to break, like if you don't have time to go into something in a complex manner or explain something or extrapolate it properly, social, great platform.
I think that when you're on social, there's no way to avoid this. When you're on social, you're either being discipled or you're discipling someone.
For sure.
There is no way around it.
Wow.
You're either being influenced or you're influencing someone. And to not see that for what it is as the opportunity to disciple, people within your reach on social, then you're really missing it. Because somebody will influence your people. Somebody will disciple
They're
your
already
people.
doing it.
And I would play, not the devil's advocate, but just like thinking of the heart of the pastor, maybe the ones that don't understand social media as much, and they're looking at elevation, they're looking at transformation in all these great big churches, and they're thinking to themselves, I don't have the personality, I don't look like them, I don't
Comparison
have the team.
complex, for
100%. So it's very scary for them to actually open up that story and put their face on the camera and
that is
say,
confronting.
Even though they're used to doing it on Sunday, they could do it with their eyes closed on a Sunday. But to do it Monday through Saturday, they have to gear themselves up even more. So how can a pastor be comforted in that way of just push play, just
push record,
hit the record button. You don't need a beautiful background, all the fancy lights. You just need the message.
Just know that your people will find you.
Yeah.
I think that the best way to encourage a pastor in this is to say that like you're called.
Yeah.
You are
Totally.
called to a specific people group that need your specific message or your way of delivery of the gospel, right?
Yeah.
And I think that can be something that can be so comforting.
Yeah.
Push play.
Yeah.
Your people will find you. The people that need
Yeah.
you will find you.
Yeah.
And they do need you.
Yeah. And also I think like your congregation, they're a part of your congregation because they love you.
Right.
Right.
Individual, like the uniqueness that you bring.
Right.
Like that. So be you.
Yeah.
Like don't try and be another church. Like
Yeah.
people are in your congregation because they love you. They love your uniqueness. They love what you bring personally.
This episode of Divine Hustle is sponsored by our 24-month content calendar. We've designed a content calendar for churches, for your church specifically, to help you navigate social media. It is 24 months of prompts. That means 7 days a week. What it's going to do is it's going to help you in the church make social content. It's going to prompt your team, literally save your team hundreds of hours a month so that you can know how to create content on social media that's going to create higher engagement and people can respond to it, and it's going to help your church so much. So go ahead in the description area, click the link to get our 24-month social media calendar. It's $27. So I know it's not that much. It's a lunch date. Come on, let's go. But it is going to help with what we're doing here at Divine Hustle, and it's also going to help your church navigate social media. So I just want to let you guys know about that. So let's dive into our last part. And any final words, just one big takeaway from what we've discussed today. One of those things that we can take away today is just embrace social media. Don't be afraid of it and punch fear in the face, like our friend Sean says, right? And push record. Don't be afraid of people commenting on your account that might disagree with you, but let me tell you this, if they're part of your tribe, if they're part of your church, they're going to agree with you so much. In fact, it's going to bless people. Your message is going to bless people. So utilize social media to spread the gospel, spread the good news, and encourage people. Do what you're called to do. Do that on social.
Right.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. It's a tool. It's ready. It's available.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have a strategy in place as well. Don't you guys think that?
Yeah.
I mean, you can always kind of like wonder, oh, what am I going to post today? What am I going to post this week? What are we going to share? It's almost like, a Sunday sermon when you go into it. You could either do it the night before or you could actually have a series and prep that and actually know what you're going to wrestle with and what you're going to talk about. And that allows room for God to really speak to you and figure out, what does my church need to hear? How can they be encouraged?
Right.
What can I tell them today? What can I post today? What can I post this week? And we encourage staff members of your team, maybe volunteers of your team, or the youth pastor, which wears all the hats sometimes, right? To think about the next 7 days of social media. What is your social media going to say? What message are you going to say? How are you going to plan the next 7 days of social media? Just think about it. You're going to be able to bless people in the church, the people that are following your church on social.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys, this is our first episode. So glad we were able to do this. Cannot wait for the next episode. We are going to be tackling the Great Commission, but we're calling this maybe the OK Commission. Here we go. It's going to be a tough one. And I think we're going to wrestle a lot with some ideas. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. If you enjoy this conversation, please go to our website, divinehustle.com. Make sure you like, share, leave a comment, leave a review on our iTunes, or if you're listening on Spotify, share it on your page. We just want to spread the word and let you guys know that we're here to help you guys nurture social media, grow your community, and create influence and impact through your church.